He's too nice. Are you a queen, Andy? Or a king? How about a king, maybe?
Common misconceptions of transgender people are often that we're mentally ill, which is why we identify as the opposite gender.
And I think the number one misconception for non-binary individuals is that we don't exist.
A lot of times they can't wrap their head around this like gray space in the middle, especially with like transgender individuals. I feel like so many people just don't even know how to wrap their heads around that, so they're like, okay, we're gonna put like one image to it, and that's like all it is, and like it's like an end-all be-all thing. Like I immediately, there was like a switch. I was like, I want to only wear men's clothing. I don't want to wear anything from the women's section, like guys' clothing all the time. And then like now, I've been out for a couple of years, and I'm literally just like, who cares? And so I've been wearing more femme things sometimes, and I know that's where my mom, she like is like confused, and she's like, I don't understand how like one day you could feel like wearing, you know, like a really flowy like top, and then one day you wear a suit.
A lot of people think that if you are trans, you have to dress or look like the gender that you identify as, and that's not true either. Clothing, what you wear just means that you like what you're wearing, and it doesn't say anything about your gender. I think one of the biggest stereotypes is that if you are trans, that you have to transition. And that's something that isn't true. A lot of trans people don't transition for many reasons, whether it be financial reasons or lack of resources. My reason for not transitioning is because I'm actually not healthy enough to, so I can't take hormones and I can't undergo any surgeries.
Or they go into the whole, oh, it's not grammatically correct. Which is like, I'm a writing, literature, and publishing major. Like, I've taken copy editing. The Chicago Manual Style 17th edition says to use the pronouns that the person identifies with, and that the singular they is grammatically correct.
In our community, just like a lot of like cisgender gays do not know about non-binary genders, and they don't put in the work to understand trans people because they feel like they're queer already, you know, like, but queer experiences are so diverse, you have to be constantly educating yourself, you know, and it's difficult because intra-community distrust and intra-community, like, lack of understanding it feels like such a betrayal.
And that's even something that runs very true in the trans community, is that a lot of people who are either on hormones or have undergone surgeries will often say like, oh, well, you're not as trans as me because you haven't undergone any of that. So a lot of trans people, such as myself, who can't undergo these medical treatments are shunned from our own community.
The beginning of, at least in America, I know for sure, since the beginning of the American queer rights movement, trans people have just been overlooked. Martha P. Johnson, trans woman of color, black trans woman, threw the first shot glass at Stonewall. And trans people were the foundation of the gay rights movement, but were ignored by it in many, many ways. And that's just a pattern that just keeps happening.
I know what happens with me a lot is sometimes when I get misgendered, I kind of just let it happen. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, why aren't you going to correct them? Or like, do you want me to talk to them? Or are you going to talk to them? And I'm just like, no, not really. Like, there have been times in classes where I've just like gone misgendered the entire semester because it's not worth it. As a trans individual where I feel like I should be the person at the beginning of the class who's like, if we're going around and doing introductions, to be like, oh, we should say pronouns too. But like the problem with that sometimes is I get worried about like, if a cis individual was to be like, hey, we should go around and do pronouns, they're gonna get like, you know, applauded for like being a good ally, you know? But if I go around and be like, oh, we should do pronouns, and then like go and say, hey, I'm Lauren, I use they, them pronouns, everyone's gonna be like, oh, look at this person, like, you know, these kids and their pronouns.
I had a professor at this school. He gave nicknames to all the students, and he asked all the students like permission before using the nicknames. He didn't ask me permission when he started using they instead of my name. He'd be like, "Hey, they, is your your script ready? They come to the front of the classroom." I'm like, you are replacing the word it with they.
I never go to the bathroom at school because I'm just so scared to go. There are so many horror stories of, you know, things that can happen to you when you're trans. A lot of people are afraid of trans people, especially in bathroom situations. So, but the thing that they don't realize is that we're not the ones that are going to be committing crimes in a bathroom. Well, when I was a sophomore in high school, that's when I came out. Many people were very accepting. I don't think they necessarily understood it, but they were polite and they respected my pronouns, which is all that I asked for. But my best friend, since I was maybe 2, she did not take it well at all. We used to do everything together, and we were like siblings. And she said to me that it was hurtful that her best friend would suddenly decide to be a boy. And I tried to explain to her the only different, like I'm the same person, the only thing that's different is my pronouns and my name. And she said it was too much for her, and she didn't want to be friends anymore. I had lost a friend that I'd had for 15 years just because she was transphobic. Mom has always been very good about accepting different kinds of people. I think it was a little different for her when it ended up being her own child, but it only took her 24 hours to come around and say, okay, I accept this and I love you. She used to always say though, she would be like, I went all the way to Cambodia to get a girl. Like that's something about adoption is you get to choose the gender. And now I feel like I can't even have that. And that used to tear me apart.
That I went to has this term, like, instead of gender dysphoria, which is like discomfort with your like gender identity or your body or whatever, gender euphoria, and like coming into your identity, and less of like a discomfort, more of like you weren't really that uncomfortable in your gender identity before, but then there was a euphoria that happened that like everything makes sense now type of thing. And that's kind of how I see it a little bit.
So I think people think that it's complex, and people think that I am in some way, I think, threatening if they mess up. But like, all I care about is if you try. Just try and treat me like a human being and do the things I ask you, and if you want clarification, you know, just ask.
I think what we really need is for people to say, okay, and you know, try their best with people's pronouns, and just be kind and remember that we're all human, and that we all just want respect and to be treated fairly. I think something else that would really help is if people would ask like people's pronouns, and I don't think, I mean, I guess you don't always have to do that, but it's just something to keep in mind because not everyone's pronouns are obvious. I know for a fact that mine aren't obvious. Definitely, I did lose a lot of friends, which was hard, but then it's also like, even if I wasn't trans, would I really want to be friends with people who are transphobic? You know, it's like, no, not really.
So try not to be scared of us, because we're scared of you. And just, we're people.
you know, the essence of who you are, I've always loved. And having you in our lives with this decision that you've made makes every day poignant, you know, both happy and sad, because I still feel a mixture of emotions about how it's going to affect you for, you know, your day-to-day reality of life and how the world is going to receive you. And I only hope the best for you, but nobody wants to see somebody that they love that much experience any pain. If it brings you just joy, that would be wonderful, but that's not how the world is. So, yeah, I feel close to you, but I also feel like I want to protect you.